So now that it's recording, let's get into Rhino. Now let's talk about some stairs. Man, I should probably just make a new file for this one. I've been basically using the same template file that we started with from the beginning. However, since I want to add it to another one, I mean, don't get me wrong, as long as I know the dimensions that I need, I should be okay, which is a 30 by 30 by 50. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, don't put all your eggs in one basket, guys. Sometimes when these files get really, really big, they get corrupted, or they save wrong, or something happens to them. So, you know, it's not a bad idea if you know that you've kind of already maxed out in terms of how much stuff you have in your file. It's never a bad idea to start a new one because you can always import another model, right, into another model. It's also never a good idea. I saw this yesterday, not in y'all's class, but in my graphics 4. A young lady had like 8 different Rhinos applications open, and that's a really good way to give your computer a heart attack, right? And I was really surprised she didn't go, "Hey, sir, my computer isn't working very well," and it wasn't. It was like, you know, super choppy. And she's like, "Do you know why that is?" And it's like, "Yeah, you have, of course, 8 different Rhino 8 models going. Of course, your computer's struggling." So you'll see that I even close out some of my programs first before even opening some of the programs. And it's just a general rule. The less programs you have running, the faster your computer's going to run those programs. But anyway, let's talk some stairs today. So I have a fresh model, and if that's the case, I'm going to have to type in units and make sure, of course, that it's in feet and not in the default millimeters. So I'm going to go, of course, to feet, and we are good. I'm going to start off with basically some layers, and that's kind of the main reason I chose today, because my layers were getting pretty crazy. However, not too shabby. Let's go ahead and get my bounding box. So I'm going to basically make a rectangle, or in my case, just a regular wire rectangle, and do 30 feet by 30 feet, enter, voila. I can of course copy that by 50 feet. And in my case, you'll actually notice on the instructions, I think it says 30 by 30 by 50. Let's go ahead and actually post that. I do have it. We'll go ahead and put it on Miro as well. SAC, computer graphics, 2025 spring, exercises, and number 4. Did I already put it there? No, that's the old one. There we go. So let's take a look at the next assignment for today. Obviously, talking stairs and rails, the next operation of our observation tower will require refinement and diagramming as we continue. However, before we can just start putting things into a cohesive object, let's focus only on the vertical circulation. Stairs, ramps, and rails all have very different ways of being made depending on the forms that are chosen, especially in comparison to hand drafting. For this project, we will use the simple 6 by 12 step, right? So very something that you're familiar with, 6-inch risers, 12-inch treads. Step 1 and, steps and a 1-inch to 12-inch for any of the ramps, right? So again, the same ratios that we use in Studio. Landings, of course, at a minimum of their width, and I'll explain that. And we will assume that the materials are steel and or concrete. Could be a little bit of both. For this exercise, we will put away the abstract designs for a moment and later combine and refine them. Stairs, ramps, and rails. Of course, step 1, make sure the abstraction is saved, perhaps hide it in the same file. As you can see, one of the first things that I went over was basically separating the file, because you might want to make a few different kinds of stairs or even a bunch of different stairs in order to basically put those together. Step 2, start with using your top, front, and side views to create the necessary profiles. Step 3, complete run of stairs as needed. Step 4, copy and continue the process until reaching a 60-foot height mark. Now, you can obviously change that to 50. I went ahead and lowered our observation tower a little bit just because it starts to get kind of crazy in terms of how high it can get. And last but not least, we'll talk about rails and of course using the pipe command and some sweep commands in order to make some interesting rails. Last but not least, I want to show you some Grasshopper and how you can actually make a plan oblique, or an exploded axon pretty easily, honestly, at the click of a button. So that's kind of a game changer. So let's get right into it. Close that for a second. And in our case, we know that it's a 30 by 30 by 50, and we can generally get that box model going. To be fair, what I like to do is draw it in the top view first. I mean, it's not too hard that way. To be fair, you could do it in an elevation view or a section view, very similar to an analog composition. However, I do want to hide that real quick, just because I don't want it to accidentally lock onto it while I'm drawing at the bottom. So I'm going to start with some stairs, some ramps, and I'm just going to kind of fake it till I make it, at least for the sake of tutorial. However, for you, get kind of fancy with the spices. It doesn't necessarily have to be just a spiral that goes all the way up. However, if this maybe is your first time and you're really scared, like, Ellis, it might just be simple to start simple, right? Just go in a simple spiral stair. And I don't mean like a spiral stair. I mean like just a simple stair that was within a spiral, right? And I'll show you what I mean as I make that myself. So first things first, I need to draw it somehow, either in plan or in elevation. So I like to use plan. I'm going to go ahead and offset and find the thickness of my stairs. So in my case, I don't know, 4 feet seems like a pretty good thickness of stairs. To be fair, a minimum of stairs needs to be 36 inches, which is 3 feet. But that's looking pretty good. I can, of course, explode that and get other lines from it. And use it to, of course, make my stairs. In my case, I could just type in line and draw those stairs individually one at a time. Some I might find that I don't need, and as you can see, I'm going to create a run of stairs, very similar to what I just told Ellis that you might have a fine or simpler time doing. In my case, I know that my treads will be 12 inches, so I can offset 12 inches, enter, and do this all day long. Or I could work a little smarter. I could copy all 3, right, and go a little bit faster. That's a lot of stairs. Nailed it. So I'll copy that last one and end it there. Not too shabby. At least we have the general gist of it, right? Now, to be fair, most of us, what we do, the first thing that we do in studio is we basically make rectangles out of these. So I'd take a rectangle, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I did the exact same thing. I extruded 6 inches, and I just copied it over and over again, right? I put it in shader, I copied it like this, and for the most part, we probably all kind of do this at first because, well, it makes stairs, right? It's also kind of roadblocky, it's kind of Minecrafty, right? It doesn't really hold up any weight, no pun intended. This crevice right here just doesn't do much for us, and to be fair, we want to actually draw it or model it even a little bit more correctly. So don't get me wrong, now after taking this class, you're no longer allowed to make stairs like this, right? You can't just simply stack them and make Lego blocks for us, right? It's just not going to work. Now what I recommend is actually once you've drawn it this way first, you can actually make it pretty easily. So I'm going to make a polyline, and I want to draw it now in elevation. So I'm going to take one of my views and just make sure that I'm in the right view. In my case, I know that up is up, so I'm going to type in 6 inches, enter. But I don't know which direction is which. Obviously, I want to follow the direction of the stair, basically following that direction, right? So I need to make sure, well, it's not that direction. Is it this direction? Actually pretty close. Nope, still going the wrong way, still going the wrong way. So I might need to actually change my view. I'm pretty sure the right view should work though. There we go, yeah. So I just need to hold shift, and I need to go 12 inches. To be honest, I could do that forever and always, or I can hit enter and just copy it over and over again. Why work harder when I can just work smarter? In fact, why would I even do that more often when I can just take that piece, and that piece and join them? Type in join, enter, copy, enter, and voila. Not really much to it. I really only have to draw it once. To be fair, I probably should count the stairs and what's going on, but as you can see, it starts to make a somewhat three-dimensional model, or at least kind of a wireframe, right? At least to start off with. Now, the rest of it we need to draw, right? We have the top piece, we have basically the stair part, but we need the bottom part. So again, I'm going to type in polyline, enter, and draw the rest of it. In my case, I'm going to come about maybe 2 steps out, click on that. And to be fair, I just really need to match the same angle, right? And I might not have that yet, so let's actually draw that angle first and move backwards. So I'm going to take the top step and essentially just draw a straight line. Well, a line that is, of course, parallel to the stairs themselves. Most stringers, or the parts that actually hold up the stair in construction, is about 6 to 12 inches. So I'm going to go with, I don't know, 8 inches. So I'm going to go offset and do something like 8 inches. Pretty sweet. And I can delete the original line. And you can start to see kind of a very similar profile that you would imagine that a real stair would be. We could even imagine stacking, of course, the wood that would be involved. Or in my case, I'm sort of making a concrete stair, if you will, almost a solid mass, and you would imagine that there's rebar inside. Again, we're not going to get too fancy with the details, but again, I like for this to relate to, well, reality, right? So I'm going to take that, I'm going to trim the pieces off that I don't need, so that piece and that piece, and I'm going to start connecting the pieces that I need and want. So in my case, I can draw a line, draw it straight down, trim it, and I know I go pretty fast. I got a lot of practice. The next thing I need to do is, of course, put it all together. So I'm going to type in join. You can also type in J for short, right? And if you notice you click on something and nothing happens, or it didn't join the element, it means that it's not touching. So you do have to make sure that the elements are, of course, touching. Otherwise, join will never work. Also, you don't want to get your points in there. So I'm going to take in everything, join. Same thing, I could take this piece, that piece, that piece. Well, it's only going to join things that are actually touching, by the way. So if I take this piece and that piece, I type in join. Again, it's only going to join that one and that one, right? Those stay separated. However, I've got my stringer, looks pretty good. I may have gone a little overboard, but that's okay. I can always chop it off. Really, the simple part here is just extruding now in a sideways direction. In my case, I've already got it drawn on the ground, so I just need to line up to the points that I want. In my case, it'll be the 4 feet, and bam, I've got some stairs. And already right there, that's looking a lot better than our roadblock stairs or our Minecraft stairs going on there. However, I went a little too far. Oh no, what do? Let's just chop it in half, right? So I may need a little bit of a longer line to actually make wire cut work, but I'm going to type in wire cut, enter the object, and slice completely through it, of course in the right direction. Sweet. Chop it, go that way. And as you can see, I got rid of the piece that I don't need. However, it didn't get rid of the drawing part, and that's okay, I might need that later, so I'll save on and hold on to it. The next piece I want to build is where I end up. So, for lack of a better word, we're walking up the stairs, and I have to land somewhere. Now, due to architectural code, you can't just make like a tiny little landing, right? The landing should always be the same width as the stairs, or at least as a minimum, right? So if I have a minimum 4-foot width of a stair, it needs to be a 4 by 4 foot landing, or 4 by 8, right? There needs to at least be a 4 foot in there. However, for this project, we'll just make it a long piece, and maybe this is our next stair. I don't know. Or maybe I make a long ramp. Why not? Because after all, in fact, in the instructions, if you're in D3 or D4, you are required to do some ramps in there. However, if you're only in D1 and D2, you don't need to worry about the ramp so much. Just focus on the stairs. However, there's a couple things we can do. We can extrude a face, right? So for instance, just like we see in like, what do you call it? SketchUp, you can of course extrude face, right? Which I forgot the command to do. Let's see if we can take that face. Extrude surface, that one. And we can basically make surfaces. You can also make them solid as well. And you can even line them up to previously existing things, right? So I mean, there's one way to do it, don't get me wrong. And then from there, I mean, you could basically extrude faces all day, just like you would in any other program, right? So I mean, don't get me wrong, we could do something like that. We could start modeling and get pretty familiar with landings. However, at least for what I want to do today, I may need to draw a separate rectangle. Right, we'll get that piece right there. Or in my case, I just want that 4x4, right? So I just want to get that piece. And I want to extrude it to give it some thickness. We'll give it at least 12 inches and put it in the right spot. So in my case, I'm going to move it. I'm going to click on a spot that I know is true or correct and make sure that I basically line up to that piece. Now, to be fair, it's not quite there, right? I could make another box, I could chop it. For the sake of tutorial today, I'll let you figure out what you should do with that. I could either wire cut it off, I could of course just make it a little bit smaller, and so on and so forth, but I'll let you deal with that. For the sake of today, let's just put them together. So I can take both and Boolean union them. And it's going to get rid of that line that we saw at the top anyway. However, you'll notice mine might be in the wrong spot. I've now created a much larger landing. So maybe actually this is in, of course, the wrong spot. And I should move it up 6 inches because, well, a tread would be at 6 inches. Boom. Oh, I guess I didn't move it. 6 inches, enter, hold shift, enter. Sweet. Now that one's actually kind of a little harder to fix, but I bet you could still figure it out too, right? Especially if we made a copy. Another thing that we could do is just scale it. So we'll scale it in 1D, and I'll basically tell it to stay here. I'll use this as my base point. I'll take that one and I'll go, nah, actually go to there. I know I make it look like magic, but scaling 1D is probably one of my favorite tools as well. But yeah, it helps definitely in some cases where I don't know the dimension that I need. So again, some practice with some modeling tools. Next, let's actually do a ramp because, well, that's pretty simple. And to be fair, it could be done a couple of different ways. I could, again, make it just like I did the profile, right? So don't get me wrong, we could get a polyline. We could basically draw the exact ramp that we need, right? And basically make it. Right, so maybe that's the triangle that I need, and hopefully that makes sense. Obviously I can use a profile method and extrude it. Right, I basically go across and I have a ramp or two, right? However, there is an easier way. We can extrude the actual pieces that we already have. So again, I'm going to extrude. We're going to extrude that surface. Oh, make sure you choose extrude surface. Enter. It's going to ask for a face that you want to click on. I'm going to hit enter, and it's be like, how far do you want to take it? In my case, I want to take it to the next landing, which again, I'm so glad that I, of course, placed that in there. But then we can actually change this whole object. However, you'll notice when I click on something, it clicks on really the whole something. However, if I use the filter tool, right, so you'll notice that it's like a little funnel. And to be fair, it's in different spots. I know where it is here, right? You'll see that there's a filter, and if you click on it, it'll enact this little, it looks like a funnel, essentially. But what's nice is you can essentially turn everything off, so disable it, or you can make it to where just faces or just surfaces are enabled, right? So if I take everything off, and I just leave surfaces, and you'll see that it's actually flashing going, hey, this is actually a poly surface, right? It's not going to work. Not going to work, right? So I can disable it, and I think actually after a few clicks it disables automatically as well. But essentially we just need to take this face and skew it, right? And if we skew it like this, well, it's just going to make it thicker, bigger, but we can also skew it from just this little piece, or this little face is of course what it's called. So in my case, trying to remember how I did it and how I did it so easily. I took this piece Maybe I do need the poly surface? No. Maybe I can explode it? No. Well, I do get that piece, but none of it's following. I guess I could do it very manually and, of course, change every piece, but I don't want to do that either. Huh. How did I do it? Not a big deal. I guess I can always draw a triangle on this one as well, but I do want to figure it out. Bear with me a moment. How did I skew it? Type in skew. Oh, no. No skewing available. Let's see. Move face. Ah, maybe that's what I did. Sweet. Enter. Oh, that worked. So obviously my ramp is going the wrong direction, but it is called move face. How appropriate. So I can take that whole piece, I can move it up, and as you can see, it's going to keep this plumb, and it's going to keep the other side plumb as well. Again, just making that angle that we need for it. Now, I should probably maybe even calculate how many feet was going, right? Because that would actually tell me how many inches it should go up. To be fair, I mean, you can kind of fake it till you make it. After all, it is just kind of a fictitious project. But again, the ability to move face is definitely, I think, helpful, right? You would basically take that again, and we can move it again if we wanted to, right? Now I should probably get to my other piece. Yeah, there we go. That way I can basically dial it in. In my case, I know that it's roughly about a foot each, so now I have it going 2 feet high. I don't know. For some reason, it looks a little steep to me. Probably wouldn't go past that. However, let's continue. Let's get another landing in there. Of course, I didn't put them together yet for good reason, because I knew I would need it again. I'll take that exact same one and put it where I need it. Oh, not way out there. That's looking pretty good so far. I could just start making some more stairs, or, I already have one right here. So I'm going to take that one, and let's make that a little bigger so we can see. And we're basically going to put it on the spot that we need it. So in my case, I'm going to choose a spot that I know is needed. I'm going to float around a little bit and just get it pretty close. I can always take that piece and, of course, rotate it. So rotate, enter. I'm going to take that one and go all the way around. I can hold shift if I, of course, want to make it straight. And for the most part, well, besides that last piece, and of course I could fill in a triangle. Like I said, there's many ways to do this, so I could just use a regular polyline and choose all 3 points that I need. Right. Hopefully I actually close the box. I'm not sure what I clicked on there. It looks pretty flat. Although it's saying I can't click on it, and that's because I don't have curves. There we go. Extrude, and basically take it to the other side. However, you can see it in shaded view, but in rendered, you don't see much of any of that. So, not usually a huge deal. However, you'll notice that it does make my landing a little bit longer, so I should probably actually move this in. Boom. And that would actually be a little bit more correct. And I should probably fix it now with a small triangle, right? In order to fix that. Either way, actually not too bad, not too shabby. I may need to Boolean difference them, in fact, if I, of course, wanted to chop one from another. So I could do Boolean difference or split. I could take basically both of those, space, and get rid of the one that I don't need, right? In my case, taking both of those and union, right? Essentially getting rid of it. So not too shabby. However, we need to get all the way to 50 feet, right? I would probably recommend even making your stairs a little bit smaller. So for instance, this is kind of the easiest method. Obviously we can go upstairs, ramp, stairs, until we get all the way to the top. And to be fair, you can even copy and paste it over and over again until it gets to the top. However, if we want to get a little bit more fancy, and I am definitely want to push my graphics for students, I want to see where you can take this, right? So in my case, I want to get a little bit fancier with the spices, And go ahead and extrude face or surface and make it a little bit fancier, right? Or a little bit more undulations. Oh, of course I gotta get the right face. Enter. Did I accidentally explode it? Oh, I accidentally exploded it maybe. So extrude, or not extract surface, that's what I'm doing wrong. Extrude surface. Quite a few in there. There we go. But yes, make sure you get the right surface. I'm gonna go out about 4 feet, just because I understand my drawing. So we'll go about 4 feet. I don't know, I might make a ramp going this way. So let's do that again. Maybe I take it to about this stair. Sweet. I'm gonna go ahead and move face. So again, that piece. And kind of fake it till I make it. I'm just gonna go up a little bit. Not too shabby. I'm gonna have another landing, because why not? So I'm kind of just designing in free form here. Extrude surface. Sweet. 4 feet. And again, if you've ever actually used like SketchUp, it starts to be actually quite familiar. Let's take a copy of that one. Sweet. Might have to do some chopping, I guess that's okay. But let's get a little fancy with the spices. I mean, why not? That's looking pretty cool. Although I need to chop it some, wire cut. I don't know if it's gonna reach, might, might not. Looks like it did. Very nice. That way we can still get those nice 4-foot landings going on. But again, bake it till you make it, right? Take that whole piece again. Make sure I copy it from a spot that's, you know, easily available or accessible, right? Something like that. And of course, Boolean join, or union, my bad. And it's of course gonna get rid of some of those unnecessary lines, and it's gonna make it look like you just sculpted that whole thing, right? Now, eventually at the end, we could of course do that all together. I could take each piece, quite literally, and now it's just one solid piece, right? That way if I wanted to chop from it or take from it. Probably shouldn't have done that because I'm not finished, so let's go ahead and undo that real quick. And keep going. I'm gonna take that piece. Oh, that one's already in the right spot. I'm gonna take that one, copy, and continue. But my goodness, I only had to really perfect one of those stairs first, and by the end of it, you know, can definitely use the rest. Let's go ahead and take that one, extrude face, or sorry, not extract surface, but extrude surface. There we go. Sorry, it gets a little confusing. Let's go with 4 feet. Why not? Let's get another ramp in there, or I don't know. Where am I at? Show. Okay, I'm getting there. Getting there, so close. But I do want to get pretty close. Let's have it go back and maybe just straight up. I mean, why not? We'll take that piece, copy it. Oh, nope, I need a longer landing first. Extrude surface. Boom. Let's go ahead with 4 feet. And again, that 4 feet, as you can see, I'm using it a lot, right? Basically just kind of establishing the circulation and thinking of it just kind of one step at a time. Just kind of keep going. Really, for this assignment, I don't want you to focus on what it is or what it should be, but just do something interesting. What I would say for some of you, you could probably get really fancy. You could go up and then go back down and then go across and then go back down. This could be an entire Rubik's Cube of what you want to do. I would say try to stay away from spiral stairs. There's just nobody who's got time for that. There's just really not. Both in modeling it and of course making it eventually. So do keep in mind that eventually we do have to make these and 3D print them, or sorry, laser cut them. But I mean, think about it. It's really the same piece sometimes over and over again. So I mean, if you can make it once, you can make it again. Right? Especially if you don't have to cut all these little pieces out, right? Don't think about that part so much yet. But let's say I was done, and at least for the sake of tutorial, I have about 25 minutes left. Let's get there. I'll copy. It does take some time, in our case about 25 minutes. We'll go ahead and rotate that one. You could also mirror this one, I guess, technically. And as you can see, I rely a lot on just kind of knowing the model and trusting that I chose the right spot when I click stuff. So again, never have near on because, well, you never know when near is just kind of enacted. Let's say it like that. That's actually looking pretty sweet though. You know, the way it dives into this one, comes out of that one. I'm really appreciating it. It kind of has like a nice construction style to it. I probably should have fixed the triangle first and then copied that. Otherwise, I'm going to have to basically, you know, fix each situation. Not a huge deal, but, you know, it does start to add up, especially if you're doing something in the thousands or anything like that. But boy, is that a lot of stairs. Let's keep going. Extrude face, or sorry, extrude surface. And again, we can line up with previous things below us. That way from the top, they're basically within the same field or plane. And as you can see, I kind of inset a little bit from there. Again, just kind of faking it till I make it. Now don't get me wrong, eventually you'd want to copy what you were planning out in your studio design. But for this case, it is pretty arbitrary. So, I don't know, I'm feeling another ramp in there, why not? I'm going to go with extrude surface. Oh. Get some more in there. Let's get another ramp. And why not? I'll land it up with actually bottom over here. Sweet. And again, move face. That's definitely a new one for today. Move face. Click, enter, and then of course move it. In my case, I want to make sure that I move it in the right direction. As you can see, it's going way off into space. So I may need to find a better view. Oh, there we go. I don't know, maybe 1, 2. I should probably choose that a little bit careful, but for the sake of tutorial, in your case, you would just type in 12 inches, 24 inches, at least choose a foot increment, right? Keep going, Chris, keep going. Extrude surface, get some more in there. Make it about, there we go. And last but not least, let's get the last bit of stairs in there. And I very well might want to kind of stop and have some breathing room too. For instance, I don't know, maybe this turns into an entire floor. So for instance, you know, I want a braking spot. I'll take that piece, kind of go out here, take that piece, and almost have like a little level. Oh, sweet. You know, kind of a spot coming up to the spot. Does that make sense? Anyway, what I'm trying to say is get sculptural with it. You don't just have to make a boring stair because I'm making a boring stair. Right? And in the past, we've had some really incredible stairs through this process. You know, some really trying to take it to the next step or the next level, no pun intended. Or they're trying to be safe and, of course, just learn the program, and that's okay too. So, last but not least, let's get this chopped off at the right level and get some sort of deck going, right? I mean, it's looking kind of silly. So, we could technically use this line, but it's going to be kind of weird. So I'm going to explode it real quick first. Explode. And I'm just going to take that one. That way I know that it's going to work. Oh, got to type in wire cut first. The one that I want to wire cut. So in my case, whoa, I think I accidentally exploded this. My bad. So just in case that ever does happen, edit undo. Okay, and we're back. So just this piece, thank you computer, has exploded it, wire cut, cut it all the way through. Keep that piece, I might need it later, why not? Get out of here. I may need to give it some thickness, and as you can see, I should have calculated my ramps a little bit better. That's of course because I didn't really calculate my ramps. As you saw, I kind of just moved them whatever. Not a big deal. I would choose at least the most complete stair. So in my case, I'll probably chop that off a little bit. Let's go ahead and move it. And the way that I like to chop off things at the moment is get it fairly close. Right, so I want to chop that off, I'll get it close. And I'll slightly just move it out of the way. Right, see that? Just slightly out of the way. Wire cut. Same thing. Enter. Slice up. Slice through. And at least a better start. Right. I'm going to get rid of that line. Technically, those are the same face, but who cares? Anyway. Extrude. Surface. Let's get that going. And let's complete that step the correct way. 6 inches. Nice. However, I need a sort of an ending platform. Right, so I'll take that piece, and we'll take it out quite a bit. This will be kind of my final observation deck. I guess I didn't need that piece after all. And let's take that out. I don't know, maybe it's a big observation deck. It's looking pretty sweet. And last but not least, let's take that guy. Oh, not that one. Let's take that one. That's looking pretty sweet. We don't want to actually get in the way. We don't want to hit our heads kind of on the way up there. But more or less, this is essentially what we're looking for in terms of the stairs and ramps, especially for my D4 guys. Some twists and turns along the way. Next is, of course, probably sometimes the harder part for some of us. However, I don't know. It doesn't get any easier than this, right? Well, besides when we get to Revit, then you'll be like, what? You lied to me, right? It is easier. Anyway. I'll throw in some plugins in there at the end as well, because I do think it's worth your time, and especially if you're already in D4 and you're thinking about transferring, you're going to want to be able to do some of this stuff a little bit quicker. Even though this really only took me an hour, and if I didn't talk so much, we could have probably killed it in 20 minutes. But let's get some handrails, because once we have the stairs, the handrails are actually very simple. So in my case, I'm going to just basically make a polyline. I'm going to type in polyline. And of course a multiple stage line. In my case, I just need to follow the stair. And oh, lo and behold, I've actually made a bunch of points that I'll need. So in my case, let's start off there. And I should probably do this in another layer. I'm going to use blue for rails. Again, if there's something I'm doing well, I'm usually forgetting about something else in my project. Double click, rename. Come on. Why won't you rename rails? Oh. Rails. And we'll call this one stairs. And again, what's nice is when we label these things and we take them in later, it'll actually maintain those things. So again, stairs. I probably even should have changed ramps and everything like that. However, let's get some rails going. Polyline. And we basically just need to trace the edge of the stairs themselves. So in my case, the stair goes up to this top piece, this top landing. Then from there, it's going to go around the landing, right? I definitely need some rails on that balcony, if you will. So I'm just going to kind of keep going. And you'll notice I'm using my O-snap to click to those pieces. So again, be careful. Do not have near going. In my case, I might even turn off mid, center. Intersection, perpendicular, and point are probably okay. End is definitely the most used. So, and you'll see those names pop up when you actually do interact with something. So again, you'll see that, uh-oh, I can't just go straight to there, and I can't go inside the stair. So I'm going to have to do a pop-up and continue. You'll notice that, yes, you do need to get both sides of the stair in order to get both sides of the rails. But as you can see, what I'm doing here is essentially going up the model, clicking, and maintaining my alignment with those stairs. Pops up again and comes up again. Right, so again, just tracing that stair, making sure that I don't accidentally go to the other side or anything like that. But tracing the perimeter of both my ramps, my stairs. And to be fair, here I'll probably go to that edge, knowing that I can immediately go to that one. To be fair, as long as you have one continuous line, I guess you could technically do it all in one swoop. So let's go for it today. Let's go with one swoop. However, extremely dangerous because, well, as you see, I'm going to have to go in and then come back in on myself. So that's going to be kind of dangerous there. We'll see how that works out. I don't know. I've never tested this before in live. So let's see how this plays out. But as you can see, I can get it all in one line. Basically tracing my entire stair. And as you can see, it looks like I messed up. I might have to go back and fix some of my points, but I'll show you how to do that as well. In my case, I'm going to go down. And again, be careful about what you're actually clicking on. Very often the same point can align to another point. However, I'm just gonna say it out loud. I probably don't recommend doing it all in one swoop like I'm doing. Um, it takes a lot of work, and if it doesn't work, you may not know how to fix it. So, um, at least I'll put the disclaimer out there. And as you can see, I'm doing different things for different parts. We'll see if that actually works out. Again, a little experimental here. And again, of course, I'm having to rotate a lot because, well, if I accidentally align to another piece, it could actually destroy this entire thing. Again, copying some of that push down work and basically still tracing the perimeters. Whew, that was close. Oh, I thought I got the wrong point. Sweet, and we're almost done. Get it all the way back down. Sweet. Enter to complete it. And as you see, when we click on that line, we get the whole piece. Now, to be fair, handrails aren't at the very bottom of the stair. They are usually about 36 inches from the stair landing, right? So of course I'll take that and I'll move it 36 inches up, because why would I work harder? And that would actually be really hard to just make in free-form space. And I bet you can almost kind of see the handrails coming about, right? Almost like a wireframe mode first. And bam, all I have to do is pipe them. And we'll go with usually a handrail is about 2 inches in diameter or 1.5 inches in diameter. So I'll go with a 0.75 inch radius. I'll hit enter. And it's asking for an endpoint radius. I'll use the same one because I want it to maintain the same. Enter again. Enter. Wow, I did not think that was going to work, but we did it, guys. Look at that. Made every single handrail all at once. It's a game changer, to say the very least. However, we need a few bit more parts, right? And I will say you could actually use a sweep tool as well. So in my case, let's go ahead and isolate to a certain piece. So in my case, re-isolate my drawing. This is probably the part where I should save, right? So Command S or Control S if you're in Windows. And of course save that bad boy as the stairs assignment 4. Just so that it's in the right spot. I have a feeling I'll probably have to make 2 on this. We are nearing the end. We do have about 12 minutes. So I do want to express that you can use some different sweeps, so like sweep 1 or sweep 2. You can make some really cool handrails. However, for today, I do want to maybe finish up with some balusters and turning this into a 45 degree view with the click of a button. So let's go ahead and get our balusters first and our other handrails, right? So for instance, I could take these other pieces and I could get other handrails involved. So for instance, I'm going to go ahead and copy. And does anybody know how much handrails should be away from each other? 4 inches, right? So I'm going to type in 4 inches, enter. 8 inches, 12 inches, and so on, right? 16 inches. To be fair, I could just also, copy that as well. And fake it till I make it. I'm going to go ahead and take all of those and pipe them all at the exact same time. And I'm going to use an even smaller radius to kind of make it like a wire, like a wire stair kind of thing going on. So I'm going to go with 0.25 inches, enter, and there we go. And as you can see, dang, modeling's got nothing on me. Can you imagine if I had to make those each one at a time? It would take forever, right? Let's check it out in rendered view. Ooh, man, let's get some shade and shadow on that boy. Can you imagine all the shade and shadow I'm about to calculate by hand, right? Just all being done in seconds. Again, this is usually what pisses off my graphics 2 students, so I do apologize. But there is some light at the end of the tunnel. There's a reason why we do all this stuff analog, and it's because we do the exact same things in digital, and we want to understand them. It's so important, especially as we move towards the future of a very digital world. We need to know what it takes to make some of these items, and we need to know how they work first. We need to know that we can't just walk underneath stuff. We're going to hit our heads, where it's so easy to disregard that in a digital realm. And I probably did right here. I don't know. You could probably fit a guy right there. He's probably okay. But I would probably have to duck a little bit, right? Especially at that moment. So I probably shouldn't have took this all the way out. Probably should have left it to about right there. And of course gotten the correct piece. Anyway, last but not least, obviously we can make two things, right? Obviously the balusters themselves. So those were just the rails and the handrails. Let's get actually what's kind of known as the column part, or the baluster. And that could be done a few different ways. Obviously I can just draw a line, right? Not a big deal there. I could find a midpoint or just a regular point in general and kind of fake it till I make it just by holding shift and trimming, right? I could also just go to a different view and see that a little bit easier. And as you can see, I can get the adjustment that I need and basically take it down as needed, right? So I take it just about to the inside of the rail itself. I can pipe it, enter. I'm gonna go with something more substantial, so maybe like an inch, and by an inch. So again, something a little bit more substantial, as you can see there. And I'm just gonna copy it, right, over and over again until I'm essentially done. Actually, it's looking a little too big, a little too substantial, so let's shrink it down a little bit. And fake it till we make it, right? Oh, try that again. There we go. And for the most part, it's in the same alignment of stuff. But again, I might want to go, I want to get a little fancier with the spices. I may need to extrude that face. I made it a little too small, so I'm going to take that surface and take it up a little bit, right? It works on everything, right? And maybe I actually want to take this piece a little bit more down. Maybe I want to take it actually all the way to the edge, or I want to chop it off. I want to give it some detail. And I would recommend that you give it that detail now, because we're about to copy it a bunch of times. So, do the work now. That way you don't have to do the work to suddenly 360 items, right? So, if I wanted to chop that up a little bit, or remember how we did move face? We can do some pretty cool stuff here too. So I'm going to move face. I'm going to click on, this is going to be kind of a hard view to get. I might have to zoom out a little bit, kind of get towards the bottom, what they call a worm eye view, right? So that little guy right there. So I might need to move face. It's going to ask me for what face. I'm going to be like that face. Now, for some reason, I can't get Gumball to work on this part, even though normally I would just use Gumball, right, to kind of move this around or change it up. I mean, I guess you can technically move the face, but it would be also cool to rotate the face and things like that. So I'll let you kind of figure that out. However, we can use it to also trim. So like if you were to take these pieces, let's go ahead and join those real quick. Oh, no, it doesn't want to. I have to Boolean union them, right? That's right. It's already an object, so sweet. But I can take that piece, and as you can see, drawing all this stuff can get really confusing. So I definitely always kind of make a view for myself to make that a little bit easier. But we can trim all that stuff as long as it's touching this poly surface. Let's trim. Nice. And as you can see, we can still trim based on other pieces. Not too shabby. But again, I may need that, of course, over and over again. So I'm going to choose a point that is, of course, familiar to me. In my case, one that is non-obstructed. So I'm going to take that sort of little corner piece, and I'm going to go up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stairs. Click. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stairs. Click. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, just kind of making sure that I click on the same points. 1, 2, 3, and let's get one at the top. Obviously, not the greatest numbers. Oh, right, I might actually want to take a different point, so copy. And sometimes I need an invisible point, so I may need to change it to something invisible, right, and get that point. There it is. And I can further use it. What a game changer. We can go kind of a little Mies van der Rohe style, sort of inset, right? Maybe get the midpoint. Start getting fancy with the spices. Well, hopefully you can see that, wow, this is a lot easier than modeling this by hand, right, to say the very least. And it still actually opens us to be able to change it. So last but not least, of course, I'd want to do that to the entire piece. But what I'm asking for specifically in this piece is to not only show us the floor plan or some sort of three-dimensional view, but we also need an exploded kind of, well, non-exploded, but an axonometric plan oblique. Now, I've made it actually really easy for us. So if we go to the Google Drive, let's go ahead and click on it. You'll see that there's a particular folder labeled Grasshopper. This one right here. I'm going to double click. And, well, there's a website link just in case you want to read it yourself. And we're going to need this GXF file. So I've went ahead and already made it for you. I'm going to go ahead and download it. Of course, put it in a spot where I can find it. We'll put it on my desktop for today. And it's known as also military projection as well. And the reason these drawings are used so often in architecture is because, well, we do a lot of three-dimensional stuff. And can you get a scale measurement from a perspective? No. In fact, the stuff in the back are getting really, really small, right? Whereas this view, it gives us a perspective but without vanishing points. So essentially the measurement that we take is the measurement that we get, right? Just in case you haven't taken D1 or D2 before. But it's also known as military projection. Now, what we'll do for here is actually quite simple, even though it does seem a little foreign. But one of my favorite programs of all time that is included in Rhino 7 and Rhino 8 is Grasshopper. We'll click on Grasshopper, type in Enter, and you'll notice that actually it pops up a new algorithm window. And to be fair, there's a lot of different little files, and I probably even have the file that I'm looking for here, so I'm just going to go ahead and load that. But the way that it works is, it might be kind of familiar to you guys. You might be kind of familiar with this interface, but essentially it has inputs and outputs. So in our case, it's going to do all the math and the commands for us. And yes, I've already done that for you so that you don't have to. So all you have to do is actually insert and export, right? So in our case, it's kind of a copy-paste mentality here. However, first we're going to need a copy of this because I just worked really hard on all of that and I definitely don't want to mess it up. So I'm going to take the whole thing and of course copy it, because you'll see that what it actually does to the model is skew it and change it. That way that within a certain view, it makes it technically correct. So I'll take this copied one and we'll probably get rid of the stuff that we don't need, such as like the lines or anything like that. Obviously, if I put them on the correct layer, I'd have no issue, right? I would just turn off the layer, not a big deal there. However, for what we need here, you may or may not have to group it. So I'm gonna go ahead and group it just to see if that works out a little easier this time. So I'm gonna basically take it, that way when I click on it, it's the whole piece. That way it doesn't accidentally do this to just one piece and not all of them, right? Who's printing right now?
And some other people, I swear.
Where was I? Oh yeah, the projection part. So we can use it as a group, but again, for some, Rhino 7 and Rhino 8 are a little bit different, especially on Windows or Macintosh. You might just want to play around with the grouping feature, just in case it's not working for you. In our case, this is technically a BREP. Now, I don't know who actually named this stuff, but that's what it is, a BREP. Just like a mesh is actually a form of triangles. Basically, you'll only find triangles, or a geoid, which is only a NURB object. Again, not to go so much into the vocabulary, and I'm not going to test you on it. Nobody's ever going to test you on that, by the way. They'll just be actually language formats that certain computers either use or don't use, right? Certain programs only work in meshes. Certain programs only work in blurbs. Hey, the point is you made it, right? That's what counts. But in our case, we basically just want to change our input, our BREP, of that object. So I'll right-click on BREP. I'll basically set one BREP or set multiple BREPs. In my case, I'm going to choose set multiple BREPs and just select all of them here. As you can see, the group didn't really work, and that's okay. We'll just select all of them and press Enter. And we'll look for the output. So the way that Grasshopper works is it's an algorithm machine, right? So just to kind of show you what sorry, it also works a little differently with the UI. And it should have made it somewhere. You're like, okay, well, where is it? Is it making it? Is it done? Well, there's a way to preview it right here. And if you click on this little red guy right there, you'll see that, hey, there's a model, but it looks really skewed. How strange. But if I go to the top view, voila, there's the correct version of the model, and all I'd have to do is make 2D. Done. And I've got a perfect axometric. In fact, it even gets better. If I rotate this model, oh, go back to top view. Oh no, what have I done? Set view, top. What's even better is if I take this model and I rotate it, guess what it does? Recalculates and changes the model. My goodness, what a game changer. So I can really dial in the exact view that I want of this object. That might not be the best view. It's covering some of the other pieces. I can't see it too well. And it doesn't really give me a true 45 degree. So I may need to mess around with it a little bit in order to get it and dial it in just right. However, once I was finished, let's say that's awesome. I want to keep it. It's looking good. I'm going to go over to the output. I'm going to right click. You'll see that it turns green when things are clicked on in this Grasshopper view. I'm going to right click and I'm going to hit bake. I have no idea why it says bake and shows a fried egg. Again, I didn't make these programs, but last time I checked, that's a fried egg, not a baked egg, but it's called bake. Anyway, in our case, this means create the object. So we're going to click bake and we're going to set the layer that we want to bake it to. In our case, we can't make a new layer here, by the way. So if you did want to make that layer first before you bake, best to do it there. In my case, I'm going to select layer 1. I'm going to press OK, and it's going to turn that object into, it's basically going to bake it. It's going to put it in our model. It's no longer a green preview, but an actual object. So if I turn off this preview, not sure why. Usually if you double click on it, it'll go away. I'm having issues with my screen share. But as you can see, in my case, I have the preview and the actual model. So in my case, I'll change the color of this so that we can prove that. Yeah, awesome. Last but not least, I just need to make 2D. And my goodness, what a time saver this is. If I had to do this all by hand like I do in Graphics 2, right, it would definitely take a little while. Some would say even an entire semester work. All within an hour. I know, it makes you sick inside, but in this case, the Make 2D will take a really long time because that's a lot to process there. The skewed model, all the handrails, every single line involved. But we will end it there for today once it's finished. Come on, computer. 94. 95. 95. Anyway, we'll give it a second. Obviously, we don't no longer need Grasshopper, for this part of the project. But as you can see, we still have our original model and, of course, the skewed preview and the skewed model. I do want to see if I can turn that off. And voila! We also now have the Make 2D flat version. And we all know what to do at this point. Get that bad boy in Illustrator and start lining it up. But my goodness, the perfection. My goodness, the ability to change and iterate simply by just rotating the model. That's something you definitely want to take with you, right? You'll blow people's mind. They'll be like, how did you make this view? Because it's not even a view that is possible, as you can see. There's a reason we use this view, and it's because it technically skews the model. It's not technically a physical view. It's known as an orthographic projection view. So again, not necessarily real. However, I will say I did go over quite a bit. Just to recap, we went over stairs, of course drawing them both in profile or top view first. We went over how, of course, you can make and extrude those. We went over move face command. We went over extrude surface command. We also reviewed over the pipe command and sweep 1 and sweep 2. And as you can see, we had some anomalies in our pipes, but again, usually not a big deal for studio or architectural studio in that case. And my goodness, that one is going to look good for the portfolio as we take it into a rendered view and even get some shade and shadow on that guy. I don't know, I'll type in sun just because we can. Get some manual control in there and change that bad boy up. I don't know about you, but I've never had to calculate shadows and never will again because I just don't have to anymore, right? However, you gotta start somewhere and do it analog first, as a lot of us already know. Anyway, any questions about the recap? We went over military projection as well, but I think that was pretty obvious. No questions, comments, concerns? Yes, sir?
I know I was late, but is this about the previous project? Or?
No, this is assignment 4.
Ah.
So yeah, we're continuing on. It's a great question because you're like, yeah, that's completely different. Eventually, we're going to put them together, most likely during spring break. However, it makes a lot of sense, and especially for you, design something kind of crazy. Then we'll put them together, and we'll further refine our observation towers.
All right.
Great question, though. Any others, guys?
How tall does it have to be? 50 feet.
50 feet. Now I noticed I had some old numbers on there. It says 60 feet. Just keep in mind, I would review this video and make sure that it's 50 feet. That way it can match your model. To be fair, we can always change stuff. And we can make it 80 feet, for all we care. But we got to start somewhere. So, great questions. No others, guys? We'll end it there for today. And I would say, as long as you have your pinup on Miro, you are more than welcome